should be doing an interview very soon with Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, and I want to quote from a recent post of his, Armageddon Approaches.
Mhm.
Americans need to wake up to the dangerous situation that Washington has created, but I doubt they will. Most wars happen without the public's knowledge until they happen. I and a few others try to alert people to the real threats that they face, but our voices are not loud enough. Not even Vladimir Putin's voice is loud enough. It looks like the West won't hear until there remains nothing at all of the German and NATO troops, and of Poland and Romania and possibly the rest of us. Do you agree with that line of thought?
Yeah, I think the West is run by a bunch of emasculated, feminized neo-Nazis. That's who these men are that run the West. Okay, these emasculated, feminized neo-Nazis. You know, these guys have very low testosterone levels. They've never been into a fight in their life, and they got something to prove. So it's worse than a Napoleon complex. So these guys think that they can, be bellicose and they can rattle some sabers, and the Russians are going to kowtow. They don't realize that, in terms of missile technology, Russia's at least 2 generations ahead. They can wipe the floor with NATO. Those who followed me on Rogue Money and with my staff, of writers, team of writers that I have over there, we've documented this very clearly, and we foreshadowed a lot of the events that are occurring today with this specific situation with Russia and NATO. NATO stands no chance of winning. I mean, it's suicide for the U.S. to go looking for war against the Russians and the Chinese. Okay, this whole, Chinese aggressive expansion in the South China Sea. China just took over 6 islands that belonged to them historically since 680 A.D. Okay, Vietnam has over 30 some odd islands in the area. Philippines, I think, have 15 or 16 islands. Okay, Malaysia has a handful as well. China takes 6, and all of a sudden the United States gets their panties in a bunch. Mm-hmm. This is a dangerous game of saber rattling. Now, the funniest thing is this. Okay, Russia and China are both holders of U.S. debt, even though they are divesting and dumping the dollar at an alarming rate. Okay, the debtor nation historically should never threaten the creditor nation. It's stupid to do so. So, I think, is the West going to, march us in this line of war and rhetoric? Yeah, they're going to do it. But what's going to happen is the Russians and the Chinese will pull the plug on the dollar way before that happens. Once that occurs, good luck trying to fuel your ships. Good luck especially trying to fuel your ships when OPEC is about to dissolve itself, and you won't have the Saudis to pump your gas lines full with oil. It's just not going to happen. So these are the things that are happening globally. It's being, these guys are going for broke, but they are the ones who will be broke. And in every level and in every regard, the wealth is going from the West, and it is winding up alongside with the power to the East.
Yeah, one area though, I tend to not try to put blame on any one particular side, because this is nothing more than a normal paradigm shift. When you're on top of the world, any direction you waver's down. Yeah. And I mean, since World War II, it's a hell of a kick at the cat, and I don't think there'll ever be another nation that did as much in as short a time as America did in its heyday. But like anything, change is the only thing that's constant. Yeah. Do you think in the last minute the American citizens are going to grab their ego and kind of put it in the pocket before this gets to that level, or no?
I hope to God they grab their ego and they stop beating their chest, screaming to the world how free they are. It's the most stupidest thing in the world. It's a bunch of slaves, uneducated, most of them. Most of them are very low IQ. Most of them just don't get it. Most of them are brain dead. Most of them can't even think cognitively or critically. And they need to really wake up. And there is an awakening happening, and I thank God for all the millions that are awake. And the goal is to give ourselves a major gut check, face the reality that, hey, we're not the exceptional nation that we think we are. We have a whole litany of issues and problems. Let's deal with those issues. Let's pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. Let's get these cronies out of Washington, probably throw them in jail and or execute them, and then move on with life. Let's rebuild this nation. Let's make it great again.
It's very interesting you're making that point because of over the 500 or 600 people we've actually toured around here and relocated several of them. That's what we do, try to make it as seamless as possible for them. It's very interesting. I find that the Western folks are the ones screaming the loudest about we're from the land of the free. But if you do anything like drive with a beer in your car or open up a bottle of rum while you're walking down the street, they're the first ones yelling, "What are you, crazy? You're going to get arrested."
Yeah, you don't even have to do that. Just stand in a TSA line. You see how free you are.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. What you're saying is coming in crystal clear because I'm seeing the view from the outside in. And yeah, you're backing up what I'm saying. V, post World War II, the transfer from the sterling to the dollar as a reserve took place. I don't understand where the thought originated that this would remain the case forever. That in itself makes little sense, but for the most part, the gospel still remains intact. Over the past 4 years, I've taken a lot of flack from both my subscribers and the alternate media regarding my position on the dollar. While I understand the fact there's no question about the dollar being overvalued currently, and I mean as we're speaking, I still see nothing out there that's ready to take its place. There's nothing currently that's holding the volume, convertibility, and yes, even the confidence in the US dollar. You mentioned countries are fleeing it. I agree totally. But the media never talks about the private sector that's flowing into it. Mm-hmm. They only cover 50% of it. But at the time of our interview 4 years later, I mean, the U.S. dollar is still running about 96 on the dollar index. And I know it's unsustainable. But the point is, all things considered, including the scuttlebutt about the yuan and the SDR, share your thoughts on how much longer the dollar can hold it together before something similar to a Gresham's law comes into effect.
Yeah. Oh, well, the dollar, I think the whole dollar system will probably last another, 10 to 12 months at the most, man. I don't see this thing is being stretched to the absolute limit. It's being sustained via bond fraud. It's being sustained through the chicanery that's happening in the repurchase order market that's keeping the U.S. dollar index artificially high. You cannot keep this stunt going for long. Now, in terms of liquidity, convertibility, and all that, the yuan is surging. Now, people will say, oh, look at the IMF. The yuan's going to the IMF. That is a Trojan horse play. China's focus is not the stupid IMF. The stupid IMF is an insolvent institution. Mm-hmm. It is another broke insolvent institution created by broke insolvent nations, particularly the broke insolvent United States. The real power structure is the AIIB, the Asian Investment Infrastructure Bank. That is a bank that is made up of, and is the rival to the IMF. It's made up of over 57 nations and counting. Okay, and recently the IMF was begging the AIIB for a loan. That's how broke the IMF is. Okay, China has been funding the IMF for the last 2 years. It's not the United States. They haven't put a penny into the IMF. So it's a changing of the guard. Hence, Christine Lagarde, the woman that I call the giraffe-necked woman of the IMF.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. The giraffe-necked woman of the IMF, she came forth and said, don't be surprised if one day the IMF's headquarters will wind up in Beijing. Why is that? Because it is a vacuum pull. Now, people say, well, the dollar is the most traded. Well, that trade is really rapidly declining. I mean, we went into 2001 with 76% of global trade being done in the dollar, and that number has fallen precipitously. It depends on which firm you're looking at. I've seen numbers as low as 48%, okay, down from, it's 48% usage, down from 76, 78%. So it's a big drop. Now, what does this mean? Well, when people say that the dollar, the dollar is the most liquid and people are jumping into it, they're jumping into it because of fear. In other words, they're jumping out of the Lusitania into the Titanic. All right? What's happening is you got a lot of these Euro weenies. Okay, these are the emasculated men and financiers of Europe who are running from the rape fugees that are running rampant, destroying the European continent. And all the economic turmoil that goes along with a bunch of morons that can't run a lemonade stand, let alone a central bank and or financial institution, and they're fleeing into the quote-unquote safe haven. Well, to these morons, the safe haven is the dollar. It's paper. These idiots don't learn. So that's why you're seeing this massive, again, demand, this artificial demand created for the dollar. It's those idiots that are jumping out of the Lusitania and into the Titanic. Now, when you look at China, China is the most liquid market on the planet. It's the most liquid market. Okay, number one. Number two, four out of the five largest banks on the planet are Chinese. The largest being ICBC, which is a monstrous bank. They're much larger. Okay, all the Chinese banks that I just mentioned, they're much larger, much more well capitalized than any of their Western counterparts or cohorts. So the changing of the guard is happening. The restructuring of the AIIB, the new development bank, which is formerly known as the BRICS Bank, that's the counter to the World Bank. The Chinese SIPs, the China Interpayment System, which is the alternative to SWIFT.
Mm-hmm.
That is a changing of the guard. That is the death knell. Okay, because when you lost the ability to control wire transfers via SWIFT, which is using the Fed wire, when you lost that ability, you're done.
Well, yeah, okay, Yosemite Sam shot himself in the foot with that one too, eh?
So Yosemite Sam shot himself in the mouth with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's occurred at this juncture is that everything that is needed for a transition from the dollar to a new system, it's already in place. Everything's there. And when you look at the new Silk Road and the new Silk Belt, you look at the Eurasian trade zone, you look at what's happening with ASEAN, you look at the entire eastern state of play, you're seeing this massive trade conglomerate, global, an eastern alliance of trade and manufacturing and commerce that's emerging. That's going to be, 70% of global GDP, 70 some odd percent of manufacturing, 60% of all trade being centered into one location. The West is losing this bad because they have nothing to offer except paper. China's Shanghai the Shanghai Gold Exchange, when that opened up in April, okay, that began the tractor pull for gold. And then you see the price of gold jump in June, hitting 1,300, and we're going to be hitting 1,400 an ounce very soon as well. So things are on the move. Does China want to be the world reserve currency? No, they don't want that. They don't need too much risk.
Mm-hmm.
Let gold and gold derivatives, like a gold trade settlement note, let that become once again a world reserve currency, or a peg on which on various currencies could play on. That's the world that they're entering into. Right now, look, as I'm talking to you, Barry, 25 of the largest economies on the planet have already set up currency swaps to trade amongst themselves without even using the dollar. It's game over.
Geographically, I'm surprised how so many miss that fact between Russia and China. It only makes sense.
No, to the average idiot American, they're thinking Russia is like the Rocky 3 days. It's like Soviet communist Russia. Ivan Drago is running the military, and Gorbachev is still in power. They think that's what Russia is. They have no idea Moscow has skyscrapers. They have no idea that the Moscow stock market was the most stock market of 2015. They have no idea that there's more billionaires per capita in Moscow than any place in the United States. They have no friggin' clue that China and Beijing are cracking. China and places like India are cracking billionaires at a rate that outstrips us.
Oh, even a middle-sized city in China like Guangzhou is larger than the 10 most populated states put together.
Correct.
You can't. It's amazing, but the thing is, on a geographical basis. But why isn't the media portraying a lot more of what this unbreakable bond is between Russia and China? And I know what it is, and it's not gas and oil. It's water. It's potable water. Mm-hmm. China's hurting desperately for potable water. Russia has 27% of the world's freshwater supply, and out of one lake, I think it's Baliki, they're supplying all of China. Why is that not being made public? This is not a relationship that is going to break apart.
No, absolutely right, and it's not being reported because what's most important for the American media is how much bigger Kim Kardashian's rear end is getting, what type of haircut does Justin Bieber have, and who's winning the Super Bowl this year. That's what is the headlines for the American media. So,
you forgot Nextel Cup, man. You forgot Nextel Cup.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, for all the NASCAR fans out there, Nextel Cup. That's what the American media is focusing on because it's a controlled media. It's a controlled, co-opted operation. I don't expect. When I was growing up, you had 54 media companies in the country. Now there's only 4. So you got four idiots in a boardroom deciding what the rest of the schmucks will be listening to and thinking about and watching. So that's the travesty of U.S. media. Then we say and then we beat our chest and tell the world how free we are.
Yeah, I'm hearing you with the bald head under the bandana, right? Hey, listen, even though I took a lot of considerable amount of criticism for my view on the dollar, that was 5 years ago, but it is what it is today. Nothing compares to the hate mail I received on regards to the views on PMs. Now, while I promote the importance of PMs being part of anyone's portfolio and Plan B, that's not where I took the slack. I took the slack on the valuation aspects that seemed to drive home the majority of this hate mail. When I went on record 4 years prior stating, while every market eventually has its day, the PM market is not yet ready for prime time. You won't be seeing the triple-digit silver and the $5,000-$6,000 plus gold that's been promised by both metal promoters and fear porn clickbait sites. Well, the emails from the gullible came in, like you wouldn't believe. But here we are, mid-2016. We're hovering around, 18-something, 19 for silver, and gold's around 13.40. What are you advising your subscribers about the importance, which you've already touched on? What PMs and in what form? And how might they want to store it?
Sure. In terms of spot price, I don't care what the spot price is. I always tell my clients, don't buy it based on spot price. If it dips low, you buy low. Okay, I don't care, because it's a fictitious, bogus BS number. I mean, the spot price is basically decided upon a bunch of in London by nations who have no gold. They're somehow dictating the price of gold. That's changing very quickly and rapidly. So
ditto on the dollar, right, bud? I mean, yeah. I don't know why people aren't selling high now and buying things in foreign currencies.
Exactly. I mean, because that's the way people are. They buy high and they sell low. So that's the way people are, man.
Guess they make it up on volume.
Yeah, they make it up on stupidity. That's what it is. But in terms of what bullion, man, if you're gonna go, if you got less than 100 grand, let's say you got less than 50 grand, you want to buy gold. Canadian Maple Leaves, big fan of the gold. Canadian Maple Leaves, silver Canadian Maple Leaves. I like American Eagles. Chinese pandas are good, but I like to stick with honestly, my favorite thing is definitely Canadian Maple Leafs, because it's high quality coin, and the premiums are a little bit less than what you would get from a 1 ounce American silver eagle. Now, if you got more than 100K, or if you got more than between 50 and 100K, or even north, you got $1 million or more, you need to be thinking about offshoring it, getting yourself an LBMA certified, good delivery system. If people have any questions on that, you can always contact me at v@roguemoney.net. I'll explain to you how the whole process works, and then you decide for yourself what you want to do. But that's what I would do. And in that case, you're going to get LBMA certified gold bars and or silver bars. These are, 1 kg, and we have smaller ones as well. But these bars are serial numbered, so you punch in that serial number, we know where the bar's been mined, we know where it's refined. We get all our stuff directly from the Swiss refiners like Auger Horse. Okay, we get it directly from those Swiss refineries. It's minted. It's not some cast, cheapy thing. It's a minted gold bar. In other words, it's the type of bullion bar that China and Russia, when they need to get gold, they get it from LBMA certified refineries, and they vault it in LBMA vaults. And we typically vault in Singapore or Hong Kong. We do have access to. We have vaults in Switzerland, New York, LA, Toronto, Frankfurt, London. But our favorite locations in terms of the tightest jurisdictions is definitely Singapore is our number one location. It's even better than Switzerland at this juncture.
Yeah, I would tend to agree wholeheartedly on that.